My name is Robert Perry. I'm here on behalf of the Conejo Valley chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I'm here to interview Wayne Nakagawa, who served in the United States Air Force from 1961 to 1967 on active duty and achieved the rank of captain. He successfully completed officer training school and in February 1962 was commissioned as a second lieutenant Air Force Reserve. From there he went to pilot training and received his wings in 1963. He was assigned to the 903rd Air Refueling Squadron at Beale Air Force Base. He flew KC-135s. His primary duty was refueling SR-71s, which was the aircraft that replaced the U-2 spy plane. Because of their top secret clearance, his squadron was not allowed to fly in Vietnam, but Wayne served honorably in the Cold War and during the Vietnam era. He was released from active duty in 1967 and went to work flying for Continental Airlines. He also served as a pilot in the California Air National Guard from 1968 to 1971.
Wayne Nakagawa. I'm 76 years old, and I'm married to Brenda, and who's a member of the DAR. Have 2 sons, 4 grandkids, and everybody's doing well. Everybody's healthy and well. I grew up in San Diego, California after the war. I think we mentioned this about I was in the internment camp during the war with my family. Well, all the Japanese Americans were internment.
Tell me where you were interred.
I was interned in Poston, Arizona, which is right outside of Yuma.
And how many years were you there?
Approximately 2 years.
2 years. Now,
Yeah.
did you get an early release because of your uncles and your cousin?
Most everybody got an early release because during the war, the government came and asked for volunteers, and they formed a unit, all Japanese Americans. They called it the 442nd, and I had 2 uncles and 2 cousins that volunteered for this, and this is while they were in camp. So they took them out of camp and took them to training somewhere in Arkansas or somewhere like that, formed this unit, sent them to Germany, and they fought in Germany. Obviously not in the Far East, but they used some of them for interpreters. Anyhow, they ended up being the most decorated unit in the Army at that time, the 442nd. And there's movies made out of them and everything. And,
right.
Yeah. And my uncle's 2 Silver Stars and a Bronze Star.
Fantastic.
And they returned home.
How early a release did you get because of these guys?
Well, we probably figured at least 6 months.
6 months,
Yeah,
okay. Now, what was life like out there on the desert? You were living in Quonset huts, were you?
We were living in the Stalag 17 Quonset hut. So it's tar paper, just a frame, tar paper, and wood floors.
Now, this is near Chandler, Arizona, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right out. Well, it's right outside of Yuma. I think would be the best place.
So you were there.
Chandler is where I went to the pilot training.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. Okay, so Yuma. So you're near Yuma, Arizona, in the desert in the summer. Well, I happen to know because I was stationed in Yuma.
Yeah.
That it's like 108, 110 in the summertime in Quonset huts without air conditioning, right?
Without air conditioning. What they did was some of the really ingenious older guys. They made these water coolers, out of the boxes, and poured water with a fan, and that was the only thing that we had for air conditioning were these water coolers.
Kind of an impromptu swamp cooler.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was a swamp cooler.
Now, what were your mother and father's names?
Fred and Fuji. And they, before they got interned, they were, my dad was a gardener, and my mom was a housekeeper in La Jolla, California.
Right, okay, and then you had sisters?
And 2 sisters.
Younger or older?
They're both younger, and one was born in the camp.
In the camp?
The youngest one was born in the camp, yeah.
Okay. Now, when you got out of the camp, did you have any property that had been confiscated by the U.S. government?
Yes. We had a home in La Jolla, and it wasn't confiscated. What happened was you couldn't pay your taxes to the government or to the state
because you had no income.
Because you had no income,
you had no job.
So the state would end up selling your house for taxes. Yeah.
Okay.
We fortunately, some people were fortunate. They had some good friends that kind of helped pay for the taxes for a while. And we had some real good friends that were our neighbors. And I think they did it for 1 year, but the second year
Couldn't keep up with it.
they couldn't keep up with it. They were, yeah.
Now, you were
They
all
were very
U.S.
wealthy.
citizens, is that correct?
Correct. Yep, we're all born, the whole family. We're third generation. I'm third generation. My mother and father were second generation. They were born in the United States.
Between when I spoke to you on Monday and now, I've been trying to think of what kind of legal machinations that the government went through to be able to do this. I mean, it seems like any lawyer could have got rid of habeas corpus and got you all out, but any good lawyer.
Yeah, you have to remember that they had the fear thing going, because what happened was Japanese Air Force or something, or the submarine, the Navy, got fairly close to the west coast here, and they threw a couple of shells near San Francisco. And
They
at
also
that time,
bombed Oregon, too.
yeah, and at that time, Warren was the governor. Earl Warren was the governor of California, and he got on the phone, I guess, and they called back in Washington, and it was like I don't know what kind of act it was, but it was kind of like an act of war thing, and how they got everybody is they thought that all the Japanese that lived in California could be possible spies. And that's how they put everybody
Did
in.
any of them end up being spies, or did they?
No,
they never proved any of it, right?
No, not at all.
Right, well.
Not ever.
Okay.
And what was funny is certain areas of the states, like if you lived in Hawaii, the Japanese Americans in Hawaii didn't get interned. Only the people on the West Coast and some people on the East Coast, mostly on the West Coast.
Now, no Italian Americans or German Americans were interred, right?
No, that was...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered your mother and your father. You had a couple of sisters that were younger, right? One of them was born in the camp. Did you have any brothers?
No brothers.
No brothers. Okay, so that was the extent of your family.
Right.
Now, you were released from the camp, what, 1945?
Approximately that, yeah.
Approximately 1945. Okay,
Yeah.
from there you went, where did you go?
We went back to, San Diego, and we actually then, after a short time, we ended up in Northern California, Encinitas. And my father started raising vegetables. He was a farmer. We did strawberries and tomatoes, and then he ended up, at the end, raising carnations. There's a flower grower at the very end.
I'm a little unclear on that. Encinitas, I thought, was just up the coast from San Diego.
It is. It's
Okay,
just
yeah.
20 miles up the coast.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right.
Right. Well, they call it Northern California. Northern County. I'm sorry.
Northern County.
Northern County.
Northern County. Okay, yeah.
Right,
Okay,
right.
Encinitas, right? I know where it is. I've actually been there.
Yeah.
So you went there. Your father's raising vegetables, and you went to school locally there in Encinitas.
Went to local school there, San Diego High School, still there, and went there. Well, it was from 7th grade to 12th. It was such a small school. It was a little farming community, and it was such a small school. Like 7th to 12th, we only had like 400 students total. Okay. That's total. My graduating class at high school was 92 or 93.
Now, were you active in any sports or extracurricular activities?
Yeah, I did that. I played sports and Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. Did that.
Okay.
Did that thing. Yeah.
Now, how were your academics? Were they pretty high?
Fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year did you?
Enough to pass.
What year did you graduate?
Graduated in '56.
Okay.
And then was lucky enough to get into Santa Barbara, UCSB.
Right.
And not because of my grades. I think it was because of all my extracurricular activities. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you pay for the tuition for that?
Well, believe it or not, my parents paid for it, and the tuition at that time was $75 a semester, if you can believe that. $75.
Being California residents.
And a California resident.
That definitely helps.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, now, you'd mentioned to me that you went through ROTC there, that was required. That you
required 2 years of ROTC.
Army, right?
Army ROTC, right. And then if you wanted to continue, like I said, you'd sign up for upper division, but that would give you a commitment. Then you'd have to when you graduated, you'd have to go into the Army as an officer.
Right.
And the perk there was that they paid you a monthly stipend. I forget what it was. They helped pay for your education.
Okay. So what did you major in at UCSB?
Economics. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you do with that?
Fair again. I wasn't the greatest student in the world, let me put it that way.
Okay. And then what other kind of things did you do in college?
Well, I was in a fraternity and Sigma Phi Epsilon and played a little football and baseball initially. And after that, it was it got in the way of my social life and surfing. So,
you're a surfer.
and plus I wasn't that good anyhow.
Great place for surfing. They
Oh,
call it
yeah.
UC surfboard, right?
You see surfboard, and we
Yeah.
had a surf beach right on the campus, right on campus. Yeah, in between classes you could go surf. It was,
Okay. So what year did you graduate?
Graduated in 61.
1961.
Yeah,
So how'd you come out in your class? Probably somewhere in the middle, or?
I graduated.
Okay. Good enough. Okay.
There again, yeah, I'm not the top of the class. Right.
Now, from there, did you join the Air Force right away?
Went into the Air Force right after that. Right. I applied for the Navy and applied for the Air Force because one of my goals in life was I always wanted to be a pilot, and so the Air Force had a class before the Navy did. So I picked the Air Force, and a month after I graduated, I was in pilot training in Chandler, Arizona. Yeah, Phoenix.
Didn't you have to go to officer training school first?
Oh yeah, excuse me. That's right. I had to go to 3 months officer training school in San Antonio. Right.
Now, how'd that come out?
Came out pretty good in that one. Yeah, near the top of my class.
You mentioned you were pretty much close to the top of your class.
Yeah,
You
I
had-
was a vice wing commander.
Vice wing commander means you're like second, right?
Yeah, second.
Second,
Right.
second in your graduating
Right.
class of how many?
There was probably about 130 or 40 of us. Yeah.
Second out of 140. That's
Yeah,
pretty
that's-
darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, because of that, did you get a pickup where you could go, or what you wanted to
That
do?
was one of the perks. Right. The guys at the top of the class got to pick their assignments, and I had already been picked for pilot training, so I got to pick. I was the first one to pick whatever pilot training base I wanted to go to.
So you get to choose the base.
You get to choose the base, the pilot training base.
Uh-huh.
There were 4 different pilot training bases at the time.
How did you get pilot training in advance? Was that part of the deal that you signed when you signed up for the Air Force?
Yes. Yes.
They guaranteed you pilot training. If you
Guaranteed you pilot training if you got a OTS, and I had already passed all the physicals and all the Stay 9 tests and all that before I went to officer training school.
They give you a stay 9 in the Air Force?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's pretty sophisticated.
Right. Oh, I don't know if they call it the Stay 9, but it was an academic.
I actually
type
took
test.
it,
Oh.
but not for the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got it. And you're vice wing commander, so you get the choice. And where did you choose to go?
I chose Phoenix, Chandler, Arizona, because it was close to home, and plus the weather was much better there for flying. You know, they could fly most of the year, as opposed to they had some bases in Texas, in Lubbock, one in Georgia, Vance, and I forget the other one was Oklahoma. Enid somewhere.
Okay, so
And,
this is where you
I don't like humidity, so
this is where you did your flight training then, right?
I did my flight training in Phoenix. Right.
Okay, now what kind of aircraft did you fly in flight training?
Okay. Well, we flew. It was called a Cessna T-37 dual jet trainer. It was side by side, and I wish I had a model of it. But and then we advanced after 6 months. We advanced to the T-33, which was the F-86. They flew in Vietnam initially. Those are the first fighter jets in Vietnam.
I actually flew the T-33. We had 3 of them at Yuma, where I was
Oh
stationed.
yeah. Oh really?
Flew in the
Yep,
back
that's
seat.
what it was.
I wasn't a jet pilot, so I wasn't allowed to fly in the front
No,
seat, but I
yeah.
flew in the back seat, and then one of my buddies gave me a ride in the front seat one time. He let me fly it.
They used that for a short time in Vietnam. Of course, it wasn't very fast or anything like that, but
Straight wing jet with tip tanks.
straight, yes, with tip tanks.
Yeah.
And
So how'd you like flying that thing?
oh, it was fun. It was a good acrobatic airplane. Yeah, and it was fun.
What kind of
Pilot-
grades were you getting for your flights at that time?
Pilot training was good. I probably ended up about the middle of the class, and which was which was almost a godsend because if I had been at the top of the class, I would have tried to pick one of the top. The top 3 guys got fighter assignments, and if I'd gotten a fighter assignment, I probably wouldn't be here. Like, well, 2 of my friends got some of those, and they got shot down in Vietnam. So, I mean, I
Right.
might have lucked out, but
Right.
yeah. So that's how I ended up in tankers. That was the next slots.
Okay, so you're middle of class. You got assigned tankers, right?
Right.
Okay, so you're flying KC-135s out of Beale Air Force
Out of
Base?
Beale Air Force Base.
Okay.
Well, I was high enough to pick the base that I wanted to go. So, of course, I picked California.
Right.
And
Now, where is Beale?
Beale is just north of Yuba City. North of Sacramento. And it's actually in Yuba City. It was an old Army tank training base. And because it was out in the fields and everything, then they put an airfield out there and made it, turned it into a SAC base,
Okay.
B-52s, and
So you had SAC airplanes right there with you.
yeah, oh yeah, it was a bomber squadron and a tanker squadron.
Now, in this tanker squadron, you're flying the KC-135. That's a civilian. The civilian equivalent is a 707, right?
707.
Right, it's the same airplane.
Right.
Now, what was it like transitioning to that thing?
It was, yeah, I know, it was just another flying experience. You know,
A lot of
you know,
book-
pilots. You go from one airplane to another airplane, and it's.
A lot of book work learning all the systems in that.
Oh
thing,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and then there's quite a bit of flight training involved. We had to go to a special course in not Travis, Castle Air Force Base, which is closed down now. It's in Modesto. That's where they sent all the B-52 pilots to train them to fly B-52s, and KC-135 pilots.
Okay.
And so I spent 3 months there in training before I went to got my permanent assignment at Beale.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
how'd you do with the training in the 135? Did you
Oh,
get pretty
It's
good grades with
pass
that?
fail,
Yeah.
you know.
Did fine with it?
Yeah, right.
Right. Now, where did they put all the gasoline in this thing? I'm curious. Where's that? Is that where the passengers usually are? They put big
Oh
bladders in
no,
there?
no. Actually, the tanks are in the fuselage in the bottom half and the wings. Now, the bottom half is what we use to refuel, and the fuel in the wings is what we flew up with. But
Was that
oh,
where
they
all the
carry-
baggage is in the civilian plane? Is that?
Yeah, that's where the baggage is. It's
Okay, instead that's
right,
full
the
of
cargo.
fuel. That's full of fuel. So
it's
you're
full of
flying
fuel.
this flying bomb.
Well,
This
flying gas tank,
Flying gas tank.
gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Flying gas station.
that's
That's
right.
Yeah. It's
And then-
the incendiary bomb if it ever crashed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God. But we had some near misses. But then unbeknownst to me, after I got about a year after I got there, then the SR-71 came,
Tell me about that.
and that
aircraft.
was a big deal.
Yeah.
Before they came, and of course they picked our unit to do the refueling for them, and.
I mean, tell me about what the SR-71 was, what it replaced, what it did.
SR-71 was invented and made in Burbank at Lockheed, the same company that did. God, I can't think of the guy that designed it.
Johnson.
Not Murphy.
Johnson.
Johnson. That's right. Johnson designed. He also designed the U-2, and they designed the SR-71 because the U-2 was losing its capability. It got got hit by a missile at doing 50,000 or 60,000 feet. So the SR was 3 times as fast, could fly twice as high, and it was probably the best kept secret for about 2 years during the Cold War.
So they had something that could fly high enough that the Soviets didn't have the
That's
capability
right.
of shooting it down.
No radar, they couldn't shoot it down. It was
So they knew
Mach
that
3.
they knew that thing was up there and they couldn't touch
They
it.
couldn't
Right?
touch it. Yeah.
Amazing. What year was that?
Well, that was the last 4 years that I was there. Well, and the SR-71 flew for a lot longer than that because doing reconnaissance missions. You know,
Right.
they flew in Vietnam at the last part of Vietnam.
Yeah, but you couldn't fly there, right?
No,
They wouldn't allow you to go there.
no,
Because of your top secret clearance, is
because
that
of
right?
secret clearance. Yeah, they couldn't. We were exempt from flying over war zones,
Yeah.
which was
They didn't
Yeah,
want you to
that
get
was-
shot
that was
down with the
nice.
kind of knowledge that you had.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the SR-71, did you get to know any of the pilots?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They must have been a strange breed, right?
No, they were really good guys. Basically, they all came from the B-58. If you remember the B-58, that was a supersonic bomber at that time.
Okay.
And so the pilots that they got for the SR-71 came from the B-58. And as a matter of fact, we had a pretty sharp, I think he was the vice squadron commander, major, but he was so well liked and well known that they asked him to come fly the SR. So we had a guy from the tanker squadron went over there and got checked out in the SR. And but he was the only one. The rest of the guys were B-58, and it was such a I don't know, top secret high class airplane. As soon as you got picked to fly the SR-71, you got bumped up a rank.
Wow.
So captains were majors, majors were lieutenant colonels, and the lieutenant
That's
colonels were colonels.
single-seater aircraft, right?
No, two. They had a navigator in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, a navigator and the pilot.
And what kind of altitude were these things cruising at?
60,000 plus.
Amazing. You can see the curvature of the Earth. Right?
Oh yeah.
You're almost in outer
It's
space.
I think I mentioned to you before that they wore spacesuits when they flew. You
Yeah.
know, with the oxygen tank and the helmet, and before they'd fly, they'd have to go into a high altitude chamber for half an hour, whatever it is. You know, breathing less oxygen and all that, or 100% oxygen. I mean, and then they take them out to the airplane in one of those vans, like the space guys that, go up in the.
Now, what years were you refueling them? From when to when?
Let's see. So we did that probably 63 to when I got out. You know, 66.
67?
Yeah,
Yeah.
66, 67.
Yeah.
And that was continuing after that for probably, I think, I don't know. They grounded those maybe 10 years ago or so.
Seems like I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. I kind of lost track of the airplane anyhow.
Right. Now, do you have any interesting anecdotes that you could tell about refueling the SR-71? Any close calls or any times when they were having trouble hooking up or anything
No.
like that, or did everything just go perfectly?
No, everything went really well. The only thing that I remember, I was a co-pilot at that time, and I remember getting, because we would practice refueling over the States, and we'd have special areas where we would refuel. But my job was to get a clearance for them after they refueled, and I'd call ATC, whoever it was at the time, and say, you know, Air Force, blah, 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 would like clearance to climb flight level 600 and above. And then
This was for them.
That was for
'Cause you certainly weren't going
no,
up there.
no,
yeah.
no. It was for the SR. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they take off and
Yeah,
and out of sight.
Just take off for outer space and leave you there, right?
Right, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They see you in the club.
yeah, and we never knew how high they were going or what they were doing. We never knew what their mission was after we refilled them.
What were some of the places where you've actually refueled them? What areas around the world did you refuel them?
Well, we fill them, of course, over the States. We had a special refueling area.
Right.
And we did some refueling in Europe. And, well, my second year there, we did a speed run to break the B-58 speed record from the West Coast to London or England. And
So you refueled them for that then?
we refilled them for that.
They broke the record, right?
They broke the record. Yeah, broke it, busted it like, I don't know, they went almost twice as fast as the B-58.
Did you have-
B-58 was a Mach 1 plus airplane, and this was a Mach 2 plus.
Did you ever have to refuel them over enemy territory, like
No, we did.
Soviet bloc or anything?
No,
like
the only thing we did was refuel when they were on their way to Okinawa. They were based in Kadena Air Force Base for a while.
that? Kadena being where?
In
Japan.
Okinawa.
Oh, Okinawa,
Yeah,
right, Okinawa,
Japan.
okay.
Right. And they were there until I got out. And we would refill them going over, but they would take off from Okinawa and fly over, taking pictures and stuff, recon over Vietnam and come back.
Were you
Or
TDY to
Cambodia.
Okinawa at that time?
TDY, yep.
Okay. But most of the time you were stationed right out of Beale, right?
Beale, yeah. And our obligation, when we'd go over there, it was under the guise of doing B-52 refueling. B-52s coming out of Guam. So we'd go down and outside of, when they left, after they left Guam, and they do their run, we'd come back, we'd meet them off the coast of Vietnam.
You'd refuel them too.
And refill them, they go back to Guam. But
That's interesting. You were doing the
Yeah.
Rolling Thunder planes that
Yes.
were actually bombing
And-
places like
but-
Quezon, saving the Marines that were down there and were surrounded. You know, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because that was in '68, so you were already out of it by that time. But
Yeah.
That was
But
because your unit was doing that.
and I think they did that as a cover for the SRs.
Oh, okay. To make it look to give you a mission that
gave us a mission.
Yeah,
that's
that they
right.
wouldn't have to know about.
Yeah,
Right. Okay, so nothing unusual to report as far as any close calls or anything where it's all pretty routine,
No,
right?
yeah, pretty routine. It was quite an airplane. Yeah. All I knew was it was just a fantastic airplane and the spy plane. We call it we nickname it the Habu, which is a very poisonous black snake in Okinawa. Like it's a two-stepper. If you get bit by that, 2 steps and you're gone. And so that's what we call the SR-71, the Habu.
Pretty good.
The Habu squadron.
Now the guys that flew this were pretty extraordinary guys then, right? I mean,
yeah. They
you got to know all of them personally.
got to know them all personally, but when they went like to Okinawa, they were pretty isolated. They kept them pretty isolated.
But
they couldn't go to the officers' club
But where did you actually hang out with them? At Beale?
at Beale.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, 1967, your active duty is up from the Air
It's
Force.
finished.
Now, did you just apply for a job with Continental? How'd that work?
Applied for a job with a bunch of different airlines and picked Continental. And
You got a choice, right?
I had a choice. And and another thing, another deal is I also got to be based in California, in Los Angeles, when I picked Continental. So
That was one. Of the,
that was another.
that
thing.
was one of the attractions.
One
to
of the attractions. Like
Right.
Delta, I had to go to Atlanta, live in Atlanta,
Right.
and United, I'd have to go live in Denver. I was just a California boy, So
What were your early days at Continental like? What did you do?
well, that was also good, but I'd say after my second year, I started flying the military air charters. Continental got a huge MAC contract.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Well, that was from '66 on.
Okay,
The
so-
reason that Bob Six did that, and I think he did that at a loss, but he offered his service to the government so he could apply for some a route to Hawaii, LA to Hawaii, and to Australia.
Bob Six being the
He was the CEO,
the chairman of
chairman of Continental.
Continental
Right.
Airlines, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you started out as a
Second officer.
Second officer,
Yeah.
being like a flight engineer,
Flight engineer.
type thing.
Sitting in the back.
After once you got out of school, right? They sent you
Right.
through school first,
Right.
and then and you were doing flight engineer for a while, and then you moved up second officer. How quickly?
And then,
First officer. First officer.
Oh, it took quite a while, about 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, but in the meanwhile, these MAC flights started.
Right, and I
Right.
was flying MAC as a second officer, and then of course at the end as the first officer.
Okay,
And
now these MAC flights were flying out of where?
anywhere. We'd fly. Locally we'd go to March, we'd go to Norton, pick up guys, go up to Travis, Seattle, McCord,
And take them over.
take them over to either the Philippines or Okinawa.
You didn't take
Where
them to
the two-
Vietnam?
No, we did the pickups there, but I think that everybody had to be processed out of the. Well, the Philippines, the initial guys had to go there for survival training. If you
Okay.
remember, they had to go jungle survival there
But you would pick them up in Da Nang and take them back.
to bring them back home.
Right.
Right. Yeah. We did some flights into Yokota too in Japan, but mostly the Philippines and Okinawa, Clark Air Force Base in Okinawa.
When you landed in Da Nang, you ever come under any rocket or mortar fire?
No, but we would get. We had a little. We'd have to listen to the radio all the time, and if there was rocket fire coming in, that I forget what the code was, but it'd come over like VHF, on the guard channel, and tell us don't land, circle out here until.
So you had enough. You had to have enough fuel to be able to do that, just in case.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah.
we did,
Yeah.
and I think one of our flights was on the ground when there was mortar fire, but never happened to me.
Okay.
But
Now, when did you meet Brenda? I know she was
well, during the MAC days,
a hostess back in
yeah,
those days.
she was Continental, and I met her on a normal domestic flight.
Okay, it wasn't not a
earlier-
Mac flight.
No, it wasn't on a Mac flight. No.
You were doing Mac and this at the same time, or what? Domestic and Mac, or
Well, I initially started out doing domestic for about a year.
so you met her
to two.
before Mac Day?
Yeah, I met her
Okay, I
before
got
Mac.
it. All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Now, what year was all that?
See, we got married in '69.
So it
So
must-
couple years after
So
I
it must
joined
have been
Continental.
'67, right around when
Yeah.
you joined Continental.
Yeah,
and you
2
were
years later, I
probably
was married.
First or second officer,
Second officer.
on a domestic flight before you started doing Mac. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
I got you. And she's a hostess, and you're a second officer. You guys get friendly, start going out, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's terrific, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, tell me more about your story then. From then on, what happened after that?
Well, then, well, I flew those MAX missions, which were, really interesting, and of course, at that time, I kept in touch with all the guys from my pilot training class and Air Force days that were still flying. Four of the guys made the Air Force their career,
Okay.
and two of them, of course, like I mentioned, didn't make it, and.
It was two then. That actually,
Yeah, what?
were they flying thuds?
No, 101s and 105s.
105. Okay,
Yeah, the 101 was a recon airplane. It didn't have. I don't think it had any armament in it. It was a recon airplane initially,
Yeah.
and
I know the 105s were bombers. They
yeah,
call it- they call them
right,
thuds.
right.
Yeah,
the
they lost a
thuds.
lot of those up
Yeah.
north of Hanoi.
And the one that survived all this was probably flying the most dangerous mission. He's flying the FAC, and he lives retired in Hawaii.
That's the push-pull Cessna.
Push-pull
Yeah, we used to
Cessna.
see those guys
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, he did a lot of heroic things during the war. And I think I mentioned that he came out with a Silver Star.
What was
also.
his name?
Rushforth, Toby Rushforth.
Toby Rushforth. You
Yeah.
still in touch with him?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
That's
sure.
fantastic.
They're
We'll
all
talk a little bit
they're-
about that later.
they're kids, and yeah.
Okay, so now you're married to Brenda. You're still flying Continental. You're first officer by this time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And are you flying Mac? Or
Uh,
Mac?
No, I just started, we were flying Mac most of my career, and then after Mac, we got this contract to fly the South Pacific. And then we started flying the South Pacific, and we got some 747s and DC-10s, and so I upgraded to those airplanes and started flying to Hawaii and Australia.
That must have been like the difference between a Chevy and a Cadillac,
Oh,
right?
it was unbelievable. Yeah. I could have. I was died and gone to heaven doing that, flying to Hawaii and Australia. I mean, you can imagine. People pay a lot of money to go on vacations there.
Now, was Brenda still flying at that time?
No, she had retired,
Okay.
and so we started to raise a family.
Now, where were you based out of?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. So
Yeah.
she stayed back in Los Angeles, and
Yeah,
you got a
well,
home there, and then
we-
you'd
we
get back
lived-
as often as you could.
Yeah.
Right?
After we got married, actually, we moved to Newberry Park here, and initially, and get the home on the GI loan and all that, and so we've settled here since 71. I think we've been here, this area,
Okay.
long time.
All right. So, Continental, and you told me you retired from Continental when?
Yeah, 84.
84. Okay.
84.
But
Yeah.
you still felt you were young enough you wanted to work, right?
Oh yeah, no, I was. That's when I started to work for Eva Air.
Okay. Tell
Yeah.
me about Eva Air.
Eva Air was a startup carrier in Taiwan, and at that time the economy was really booming there, and it was started up by the owner of the Evergreen Shipping.
Okay.
And at that time, China Air was the only airline that they have, and that was a government-run airline. And the story is that the chairman got some bad treatment while going on China Air one day, and he said, "The heck with you guys! I'm going to start my own airline and run you
Fantastic.
out of business." And anyhow, so he started this airline, and yeah, he's their big competitor now in Taiwan.
Still is, huh?
Still is. Oh yeah, they're doing great. Yeah.
All right.
And
Fantastic.
then I retired from there, and then that's when I went to work for the FAA, and then went to work for Boeing.
Okay, tell me what you did for EVA Air. EVA Air, you were a pilot?
Pilot.
What kind of aircraft did you fly there?
747,
Okay.
and a pilot and a trainer, line
All right.
instructor.
But you weren't with them for very long then, right? How long?
No, just 5 years.
5 years. Okay,
5 or
but
6
it
years.
looks like you worked for the FAA before that for a
Yes,
couple of years.
just before that.
And there you were
Right.
an inspector, meaning you did check rides,
Gave check rides.
check
yeah.
rides for the pilots and
Right.
first officers and like
Right.
that. Did they have any good simulators by that time?
Oh, well, the simulators at that time had gotten to be what they call full flight simulators, and the technology was good enough, like almost like virtual reality thing with the cameras that they had,
Right.
where you could practice your landings and stay current. In other words, you could land in the simulator, get your landings in the simulator. The requirement was you needed like 3 landings per month to stay current in the airplane. Well, if for some reason you were sick or something happened and you couldn't get your landings that month, you could come into the simulator and fly 3 approaches and landings, and then you're current. That's how good the visual system was at that time, and it still is. It's even better now.
So as an inspector giving check rides, did you have anything to do with the simulators, or did you just do it like
No, both.
Both.
Yeah,
So you watch them on the simulators
yeah,
and you take them out in the real aircraft.
We'd observe simulators, and then
They have to pass the simulator first before you take them out there, right?
Oh yeah, but we wouldn't check them out on the line. We would just fly a line trip, sit in the back seat there and observe them, flying a normal trip.
Okay.
You know, making sure that they abided by all the rules and blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah, but
Any of these guys bad, or were they all pretty good?
all the guys that I had were, you know, they were good. You know, unless some guy's really out to lunch, they all do a good job because they get all their training in their own training department in the simulator before they fly. So yeah,
What kind of routes did you fly with Eva?
all international, obviously. You know, and flew to Europe and flew to the States, and it was a good thing because their first airport that they picked was Los Angeles because there's such a large Taiwanese community here in Los Angeles.
Lucky
So,
shot there,
yeah,
right?
I know.
You live there, so.
That's
yeah.
right. So it was another gift for me.
Anything unusual happened when you were flying for them? Any stories?
No, it was pretty standard, but just getting used to the different culture again. You know.
Tell me about that.
Well, you know, Chinese is the culture is a little different than the Korean culture. I find out, but it's the language interpretation. Some of the words that they use, you know. One of the good remembrance I had is one of my first flights. The cabin attendant calls me and she says, "Captain, would you like a snake?" And I said, "Excuse me?" And they eat snakes in Taiwan. Oh yeah, it's a delicacy there. It's a viral thing for men to eat snakes. Makes you big and strong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, she says,
Just say no thanks, I'll have a cockroach
No.
instead, right?
"Would you like a snake?" And no, and this is our first officer, Taiwanese first officer, and I started, "What?" And he goes, "Captain, she means, do you want a snack?"
Oh,
And you know,
that's pretty funny.
yeah, right. I'll never forget that. It was one of my first flights. Would you
Yeah.
like a snake? And no, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see. So you retired from EVA Air
Yeah.
in 1999, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you got a job with Boeing doing training of pilots.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, the whole object was, you know, we're talking about Asiana having accidents and stuff. Korean Airlines had a couple real bad accidents. I don't know if you remember the one that got shot down over Russia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they had one in Guam. Was landing at Guam Air Force Base. Well, Guam, they share it. It's commercial also, and it landed short of the runway, and the 747 hit the side of a hill, and so they had like 3 bad accidents in a matter of 3 years. So the FAA here was going to shut them down to fly in the States,
Right.
and they were flying a lot of
It would be a big loss
military
for them if they
people
did.
there
Yeah.
at that time because
Yeah.
we have a lot of military bases there. And so Boeing kind of stepped in because they were a big customer of Boeing's. They were selling 747s and 737s and seven,
It's Korean Airlines, right?
just to Korean Airlines,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to lose them. So they offered to do all their training, and the chairman at that time said, "Yes, come over." And so he had us come over, and he fired all the Korean trainers and brought us in, and then we've been there for the last 15 years.
And you're still working there.
Still working there, no accidents, knock on wood. But they
I heard a rumor that Korean airline was shot down by the Russians.
that was before we got there.
Right. I heard that they cut off part of their flight route there and were actually over the Soviet Union.
Well, basically, what happened was, once again, it was pilot error. When they had a stop in Anchorage,
Okay.
and to refuel, and the guys put in the wrong coordinates in their navigation system.
So they actually
And-
were over Soviet airspace.
Yes, and
Not that they should have been shot down as a passenger
No,
airplane, but the
I
fact was
know.
they were over
they
Soviet
were.
air.
I know. Now you can fly.
sent a
over-
couple of MiGs up there to escort them or something. You don't
And
blow
I-
them out of the sky. I mean, somebody had too much vodka, gave that order.
They found out some colonel or something on the ground gave the wrong order or something like that, and so the pilots shot a missile off or something. But yeah, they had the wrong coordinates. They were flying over Soviet airspace, and of course now it's no big deal.
That could happen now and it wouldn't be anything.
Oh no, no problem.
Yeah.
But they did that, and then another one in Guam. It was just about like the Asiana thing. The guy got low, and the first officer didn't tell the captain, "You're low, captain."
It's cultural, right?
Cultural thing to save face, and so he hit the mountain or little hill, and the other one was they had one in London where a 747 took a freighter. Thank God it was a freighter, and the captain's instrument started not operating correctly, but the first officer's was. But the first officer didn't say anything as he was climbing out, and so the captain thought he was climbing too high, so he pushed the nose down, and he thought he was in a bank, but he was actually flying straight and level. So he turns the airplane to try to straighten the airplane out, but on the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
But his instruments were tumbling. The first officer was working fine. First officer never said anything to him, and so they went in like this and crashed outside of Stansted.
First officer's job would have been to tell him, hey, you messed up, and he doesn't, because he doesn't want the guy
Yeah,
to
there
lose
was flight
face. So
recorder, right.
It's cultural again.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, cultural thing. And so that's what we've attempted to do. We've done a pretty good job, I think. We changed the culture in the cockpit. Now, we don't want to change their culture when they go home and all that.
No,
That's
but
the
it's
same,
important that they westernize when they're
Yes.
flying those aircraft. And
Yeah, we emphasize that all the time now.
so that's working for you then.
It's working,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Tell me now about your family, your sisters, you have sons, right?
Yeah, two
Tell
sons.
me about what they're doing.
Two sisters. Well, both my sisters are retired. My oldest sister has a son and a daughter, and my younger sister, no children, but married,
Okay.
and they live up in Washington. And everybody's doing well.
How about your son?
I don't get to see them very often because they live so far away. Both sons live locally.
Okay.
The oldest son, well, as a matter of fact, they grew up here, graduated from T.O. High School.
Okay.
And they both went to UCSB, and then my oldest son went to law school at Pepperdine, and he's working here as a lawyer. And
What kind of lawyer is he?
family law.
Family law, okay.
Yeah. And the other son works for Wells Fargo. And he's like a personal securities banker. I don't know what his title is, but he works in the Valley. They
Investment banking then.
investment banking, right?
Very
Right.
lucrative field if you're good at it.
Yeah, if he does a good job.
Right.
And then they both have two sons. So we've got Brenda and I have 4 grandsons. Sons, no daughters, no granddaughters. Upsets Brenda a little bit, but they're great kids.
Now,
Yeah.
how long have you two been married?
Oh, we're going on 46 years.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
Be married to the same woman for 46 years in
Yeah.
this day and age. That's
That-
great.
that's
I love to hear
exactly-
that.
No, I get a lot of my friends. I tell them that, and they said, "God, I've been married for 50 years, only with 3 different wives."
Right.
Yeah, 2020, and
So you got 4 grandsons?
4 grandsons.
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And how are they doing?
Oh, they're doing great. Kieran and Noah are going to school, elementary school, and they're both doing fantastic. Good athletes, good students, getting a lot better grades than I did. They're top of their class. They go to this school here in Thousand Oaks, over by Kennington. It's called Mates. It's a charter school.
Charter school,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, they have great programs.
Any
Yeah.
granddaughters?
No granddaughters.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked a little bit before, touched on a little bit before about staying in touch with your buddies from back in the Cold War and in the Vietnam era.
Yep. Still do. Still do. We communicate all the time. All the guys.
Run down for me who those are that you really stay in
Well,
touch with.
we had, as a matter of fact, our old pilot training class had a reunion a year ago in Phoenix, 63F reunion, and all but 2 of the guys, are alive from that pilot training. 'Cause they're the ones that got shot down in Vietnam. But yeah, we have some pictures there at 63F. The guys that they
Got any graduates out of Hanoi Hilton that made it all the way through that you're in touch with?
No. Fortunately, none of them got thrown in there. They were lost in action.
Killed in action. Two killed in action.
Yeah, killed.
Everybody else made it
but
back.
they were. I don't know what they called. They didn't recover their bodies, so they were MIAs. Is that what
Missing
they
in
called
action.
Yeah, missing in action. They were MIAs until just, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah.
They were reclassified as dead.
Then they reclassified them. And
They never recovered the bodies from
never
the North
recovered the
Vietnamese.
bodies for Chuck and Mike. No.
Okay. Everybody else is doing well though, right?
Everybody else is doing. They went into different businesses, and mostly, let's see, about 5 of the guys. I lost track of some of the guys in my pilot training class. Some of them stayed in the military and retired, but the guys that I kept in touch with got out of the Air Force and went to work for commercial, TWA, Braniff. Who else? United. And one guy went into insurance. Yeah.
So you have a couple of them that other than reunions, you have a couple of them that you're in pretty much constant contact with?
Yeah, still stay in contact with.
And who are they?
A fellow named Larry Warren. He retired TWA guy. He lives in Scottsdale. And
He was in your OTS class or
no,
your
pilot training class.
training, okay.
Pilot training class. Toby Rushforth was a guy in my OTS class, and stayed in contact with him. And he's the guy that got the Silver Star in Vietnam.
Pilot training also.
Yeah,
That's the guy with the push-pull Cessna, right?
Yeah, and this guy, one guy, Doug Photo. He lives in Denver. He was an ex-Braniff, ex-Air West guy. American West. And Tom Carroll lives in Chicago, and he was an ex-insurance. He went into insurance. His wife didn't want him to fly commercial because of the flight attendants. He was married already when we were in the Air Force.
Right.
Yeah,
I got it.
right.
Okay.
But he did well. Yeah, we stay in contact all the time.
Well, let's talk about reflections here. On your wartime experiences, I think, when you and I had a discussion on Monday, and it doesn't sound like there was any war trauma with regard to you or anything like that. It was just a really good trade, a really good profession that you learned from the military, and that it really influenced your life in a very positive way, where you got a great job and you were able to fly and are still flying.
Still flying, yeah. Well, like I told you on Monday, I felt I was very fortunate, and because when I got to Bill, I got this assignment, where we couldn't fly over war zones because of the SR and all that. And but everything that I witnessed and saw in the military, and it was all very positive. Not so positive when you lose some of your friends,
Right.
But the whole thing was great learning experience. I mean, for someone like myself that was raised on a farm, to get out there and meet all these people, fly all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
Any life
my
lessons?
parents never left California.
Any life lessons that you learned from the military service, like in a philosophical
Well,
sense?
the discipline and that you learn, and just important things about morale, friendship stuff. Is
Camaraderie,
I
esprit de corps, that kind of thing.
esprit de corps things, right? And helping your buddies out, when they're in trouble, and really a bonding. That's what you get. That's
Teamwork,
what you get when you're
bonding.
teamwork,
okay.
bonding, that you don't get in the civilian world.
Right.
It's an important step in life. I think, and they do this. I think when kids have problems now, the judge, if they're in for 2 or 3 times, the judge will say, they used to say, I don't know if they do that anymore, but they make them join the service
Well, they could suggest it.
instead of going to jail.
Right. They could
Yeah.
suggest it. And I said, well, why don't you go down and see a recruiter? Maybe we could work something out, because it's strictly voluntary.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's
how about your feelings about war and the military in general? Do you think they changed because of your military service?
Well, what we did in the military during my flight, of course, things have changed so much from now. The world wars were much different than Vietnam and all the Afghan wars and Iraqi wars that we're fighting now, and it's almost impossible to compare. I'd say, because the technology too makes a big difference. There's very little, like we used to do, the invasion thing, with the big ships and invading the land and all that. But the bad thing that I always feel terrible about any kind of a engagement or war is when the guys, you see pictures of families losing their husbands and sons and whatever, I really feel for them, because I was fortunate enough to make it,
Right.
and for the people that are fortunate enough to make it, not come out maimed or anything like that, feel very lucky. Let me put it that way. And like I said, I just felt very fortunate during my years in the service, but would never change that at all.
Right. If you had to do over again, you'd do the same thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, even if I knew I was gonna not have Beale Air Force Base and the SR, if I had to do what these other guys did.
You'd do it anyway.
Oh yeah, sure. Just.
Is there any message you'd like to leave for future generations who will view or hear this interview?
Well, the message, and I think it's getting away from some of the younger generation that's growing up, about how fortunate they are to be here in America and being raised here, and I think they lose sight of what all their forefathers or relatives have done to keep America like it is right now. But I see that coming out on some TV things now, and some shows emphasizing things, emphasizing patriotism and the effect of how lucky you are now. The reason, about free speech. Why do you have free speech? Is because the guy that gave up his life and and
right.
wherever.
This
you
freedom
know.
isn't free. Somebody had to pay for,
That's
this
exactly
easy
right.
ride that you got now.
You
Just
got that
remember
right.
that. Yeah.
And I think we mentioned this, like during the Vietnam War, the guys came back from the war and people would boo them or just turn their backs on them. And now you walk through the airport and a bunch of GIs come off the airplane and, you know, guys are clapping, you know, and thanking them.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. I mean, what a difference,
Right.
you know, so.
I think they had to learn from the Vietnam experience.
Yeah.
The public had to learn that that's not the way you do it.
Well, and then I don't think the public was exposed to the sacrifices that a soldier makes or somebody in the military. And now it's all exposed because now they show, you know, pictures of the main people coming back or
Arms and legs blown off and that kind of thing.
oh yeah, and then the poor little kids and the parents,
Yeah.
you know, you hear all kinds of stories about that. And then this one that really struck me was, I think it was a Delta flight coming back from Germany somewhere, and they had a casket of one of the soldiers,
Right.
and the family was sitting up in the back of the airplane, and flight attendant comes up to the cabin and says, "Captain, this family's got their husband or father, you know, for the kids in the cargo, and they're going to take it out first. Would you mind if they got off the airplane first?" And so, yeah, the captain makes a announcement, you know, telling them what the situation is, and still kind of cracks me up. But anyhow, so it shows the people coming off the airplane and all the people, you know, looking out the windows down at the military guys taking the casket off the airplane with the family on the ramp, and,
Wow.
and you know, all the faces in the window all the way across the airplane fuselage.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
it's pretty touching.
I think
Yeah.
to summarize what you're saying is the
Yeah.
message you'd like to leave for future generations that hear this interview is that freedom isn't free.
It's not free. A lot of people, and what I think is really good now with all this technology, with YouTube and FaceTime and all this, you know, instant iPad stuff. Video stuff is that they're recording all this stuff, and you can see what effect it has on military families and stuff now. You know, and it's not just something that nobody ever thinks about now. Everybody sees it personally, which I think is really good.
Big help.
Yeah, big help.
Is there anything you feel we haven't discussed or should be added to this interview?
No, I think we covered everything. You know, probably more than I thought we were going to cover. To tell you the truth.
Well, that makes me feel good. Sounds
Yeah.
like I did my job all right.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely have.
Well, on behalf of the Conejo Valley chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and for me personally, I want to thank you for your service and your sacrifice for the U.S. military during the Cold War and the Vietnam era. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. You too, by the way.